The first time I stood before Queen Zyara, her throne glowed with the pale blue fire of her ancestors. It wasn't wood or metal but a living crystalline structure, pulsing like the heart of some ancient beast. Her people, the Drakari, were tall, silver-skinned, and crowned with ridged crests that caught the light. She herself was taller than me by a head, her posture regal, her black eyes reflecting no warmth at all. I had come to their world as part of a diplomatic envoy, carrying words of peace and trade. I thought myself clever, thought humanity could match centuries-old empires in rhetoric. But within days I had spoken words that offended, stumbled into political traps I barely understood. My punishment was not death, not imprisonment, but something the Drakari found far worse: exile into the wastes. The wastes stretched beyond the capital spires, an endless desert of scarlet sand and razor-edged stone. To be cast there was to vanish. No one returned. The queen herself spoke the sentence, her voice cutting through the chamber like ice. "Human, your tongue outruns your wisdom. You seek to teach us how to rule our realm. For that arrogance, you shall walk where no shadow falls, and may the storms claim you." The hall had roared with approval. I remember looking up at her, searching her face for even a trace of doubt. There was none, or so I believed. Exile. They stripped me of my uniform, left me in a tattered robe, and pushed me beyond the gates with nothing but a flask of water. The twin suns hung mercilessly overhead, and the horizon shimmered with heat. Behind me, the city's towers gleamed like silver spears. Ahead, nothing but desolation. The first days were a blur of survival. I rationed my water, searched for shade beneath jagged rocks, and tried to ignore the whispers in the wind. The wastes were said to be haunted by the forgotten, beings who had once been Drakari but had been twisted by exile. I laughed at the stories, until night fell. When the heat died, the air filled with mournful wails, like voices carried from the abyss. Shapes shifted in the dark, half-glimpsed forms that vanished when I turned. Once, I woke to find footprints circling me in the sand, though no living thing was near. My mind unraveled, yet my body endured. I built crude shelters from bones of long-dead beasts, scavenged brackish water from cracks in the stone, and chewed on bitter roots that burned my tongue. And through it all, I cursed Queen Zyara's name. But survival does strange things to a man. Weeks bled into months. I learned the rhythm of the desert, its hidden rivers, its migrating herds of scale-backed crawlers. I grew lean, hardened. And when storms came, storms of crimson lightning and winds that could strip flesh from bone, I clung to life with the fury of someone who refused to vanish. The queen's regret. Far away, in her palace of crystal and flame, Zyara dreamed. Or so I would later be told. The Drakari believed their monarch was touched by the cosmic mind, able to feel the threads of fate. Yet her visions were troubled. She saw her empire crumbling, her people scattering like ash. And at the center of it all, she saw me, the exile she had cast away, standing as either her destroyer or her salvation. She tried to ignore it at first. What was one human to a queen who commanded legions? But the visions persisted. She would see me walking the wastes, unbroken, watched by the forgotten as if I were their kin. She saw storms bending around me, sparing me, as though the desert itself had chosen me. Regret crept into her heart, though she would not admit it to her council. Pride was her armor, yet fear gnawed at the edges. What if she had made a mistake? What if casting me out had unleashed something greater than she understood? And so, one night beneath the tri-moon sky, she sent her hunters into the wastes, not to kill me but to find me. The summons. I had been living among the ruins of an old outpost when they came. The sky darkened with skimmers, sleek crafts that hovered like predatory birds. I thought at first they were raiders, come to finish me. But instead of spears and fire, they brought an envoy. "Exile," the armored captain said, bowing his head ever so slightly. "The queen calls you to her chamber." I laughed. The sound was bitter. "Now she remembers me." His visor hid his eyes, but his tone was cold. "Refuse, and we will drag you in chains. Accept, and you may walk as a guest." Had no illusions. This could be a trap, a cruel game to break me once more. But some ember inside me, curiosity perhaps, or the desire to see her face again, made me agree. They brought me back through the gates I had left months ago. The people stared, whispering as I walked among them, scarred and sunburned, my robe tattered yet my step unbroken. To them I was a ghost returned. The chamber of flames. The queen awaited me in her private chamber, far from the eyes of her court. It was a cavernous hall lit by molten rivers that flowed beneath glass floors. The air shimmered with heat, and her throne loomed at the far end. She rose when I entered. For the first time, I saw something other than ice in her gaze. Something softer. "You have endured what no other has," she said. "The desert should have claimed you. Yet you stand." I crossed my arms. "You exiled me to die. Now you summon me as though I were a loyal subject." Her jaw tightened. "I misjudged you." "Misjudged?" Spat. "You humiliated me before your court, cast me into hell, and now you think an apology." "It was not mere arrogance," she interrupted, her voice rising with rare urgency. "I saw visions. You among the sands, crowned by storm and shadow. You were not meant to perish. You were meant to return." The silence between us cracked like thunder. I should have hated her, and part of me did. But another part, some deep, treacherous part, felt the weight of her words, the strange gravity in her gaze. "What do you want from me?" Yes. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, not quite command. "I want you to stand beside me. Not as an exile. Not as an enemy. But as one chosen by the wastes themselves." Choice. The following days blurred with strange rituals and council debates. Some of her advisors called me a curse, demanding I be cast out again. Others whispered that I was a weapon the queen could wield. Through it all, Zyara shielded me, her presence fierce and unyielding. And I saw her differently now. Not just a queen, but a woman bound by chains of tradition, haunted by the weight of her throne. At night, in the chamber of flames, she spoke to me in quiet tones, confessing doubts she had never voiced to anyone. "I thought power meant certainty," she murmured once. "But the more I rule, the more I fear every choice. Exiling you was the act of a queen. Regretting it was the act of a woman. I should have walked away, returned to the stars, to my people." But her words bound me more tightly than chains. When the Drakari Council rose against her, threatening rebellion, it was I who stood at her side. When assassins struck in the night, it was I who shielded her with my own body. And when the visions came again, visions of war descending upon her world, it was I who swore I would not let her fall. Ending. The chamber reclaimed. The final test came beneath a sky torn by fire. Raiders from the outer systems descended in fleets, and the Drakari army faltered. In the council's eyes, it was proof that the queen had lost her favor. They sought to depose her, to place another up.